I am super excited to introduce my guest. He studied acting and directing with Lee Strasberg and became a member of the Actors Studio, where he was influenced by directors such as Elia Kazan, Arthur Penn. He appeared in the first Actors Studio production, Strange Interlude, with Geraldine Page and Jane Fonda. He's appeared on television in such shows as The Hitchcock Hour, The Outer Limits, and The Twilight Zone. He's appeared in several movies, among them A Bridge on the River Kwai, Bonjour Triste, and The Tempest. He did many plays on Broadway and off-Broadway. He started teaching acting at the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute in New York in 1978. In addition to teaching, he has directed many plays, including The Seagull, Romeo and Juliet, A Streetcar and Named Desire. He studied at Stanford University and graduated from UC Berkeley. He's the co-founder of Shakespeare Downtown in New York, and he's my first acting teacher. I'd like to introduce Geoffrey Horne. Welcome to Hollywood Dreammaker.
Thank you, Billy. You were 15, I believe, when I met you.
I was 15. It was probably 1982, 80, yeah.
Wow.
82.
Wow.
I was in a tough place. You know, I was kind of running around the streets. I had run away from home. I was, you know, I don't know if you know this, but you know, I was running the streets.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I was running the streets of Brooklyn, New York, and you know, I grew up without a dad, so you know, my father figures were guys on the streets, you know, wise guys. I had a guy that I looked up to, who kind of took me under his wing, and you know, I was going down the wrong path. And then one day I cut out from school. I was walking down the street with him, and he walked into a men's clothing shop. He was shaking down the owner of the store, and the guy's son came out from behind the counter and put 5 bullets into him, one into his head right in front of me. One bullet went right over my window, you know, the window that I was standing in front of. And, you know, this is the guy that I wanted to be. This was my idol. And then I saw him laying there on the ground bleeding out, and I knew I did not want to live that life anymore. I had to get out of Brooklyn. And I had a friend of mine who was a neighbor who was studying at Lee Strasberg. And his name was Stephen Gucciardo, and Stephen was like the coolest guy on my block. He had this white Mercedes Benz and that said Gooch on the plane. He was always dressed up, and I was like, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to acting class." So I begged him, you know, "Please take me with me, take me," you know. And he was part of a theater group called the New Family Theater in New York. And I, you know, I started running lights and doing, you know, backstage, you know, whatever I could do to be part of the productions. And then he brought me over to Lee Strasberg, and, you know, that literally saved my life, you know, and that's when I came into your class, and I was 15. I don't know, what do you remember from that?
Well, I remember that you were 15. I remember there was a very cute girl in the class that you liked. Everybody liked, I think. I remember that. That was a long time ago. Yeah, I loved teaching that. It was always on a Saturday, right? That was a class that was on a Saturday.
Yeah, it was Young People's Program on Saturday.
Young People's Program on a Saturday, and I loved doing that. In fact, I was doing it. I was teaching you all while I was doing a play on Broadway. I would leave class and dash to get to my matinee.
Wow.
On Saturday. That was fun. That was a really good time. That was a great time. Great time. Yeah.
It was a great time for me.
I'm sorry, there's something left off of my bio. I should put that because everybody loves Bruce Lee. I was a guest star on, what was that show that Bruce Lee did when he was young?
The
Green Hornet.
The Green Hornet.
The Green Hornet. I was a guest star on that show. I knew Bruce Lee when he was 17 years old.
Wow, that's awesome.
All the great fans of Bruce Lee. Anyway.
You know what I remember?
Yes, of course. Yeah, go on, please.
What I remember about class was I was highly motivated to get to your class because I believe I was the only boy in the class. It was like a class with like 20 girls.
Yes. That's true. I remember. Because boys didn't like to do it so much then. Young boys didn't like to do it. Now that's changed a lot. But young boys thought, no, that's for girls. That's sissy stuff. I want to be playing basketball or something.
Well,
Huh?
yeah, for me, it was like when I was in high school, I knew I wanted to act because I got bit by the bug when I was 11. They were filming a movie in my neighborhood. I got a small part in it. I was inspired to be an actor.
Right.
And then shortly after, they were filming Saturday Night Fever in my neighborhood, and I watched John Travolta till 4 in the morning filming. I
Oh.
knew I wanted to do it. And then in high school, I um, I was kind of, I got grabbed by the dean's office and they brought me to my guidance counselor and they said, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "I want to be an actor." So the guidance counselor, she said, "You should go see Mr. Carucci down in the lunchroom. They're doing a play." And they were
Oh.
casting Grease. And I went in
Oh.
and I read and I got the lead part as Danny Zuko.
Wow.
But all my friends, my juvenile delinquent friends would pull up in a stolen car and go, "Come on, jump in." And I go, "I know, I got to go to rehearsals." And they were calling me names, "You fag," every name in the book. But when the play was sold out and it was standing room only, and then the next year they were doing West Side Story, and all of my friends were in the play. They were all like the Jets and the Sharks.
Yeah, they all want to do
All
it,
of a
of
sudden, it
course.
was cool.
Of course. You know who was in that class, but not at the same time as you, but I don't know whether it was before you or after you, was Kevin Corrigan. Do you know Kevin?
Yeah, I know Kevin.
Kevin's daughter is now studying with me this summer,
Wow,
this
that's
fall, I mean.
awesome.
Isn't that funny? That's great.
So you can, you've been teaching the craft of acting since, at Strasberg since 1978.
You're right.
So, you've worked with a lot of actors. Who are some of your actors that you've worked with that,
Oh,
besides
God.
Kevin? I mean, I know it was
Well,
Adam Sandler.
there's Kevin, Adam Sandler. There's Alec Baldwin. Kate Brosnahan, who's doing that show, Miss Maisel or Miss Maisel or whatever it is. You know the show, right?
Yep.
I
Miss
can't
Maisel.
think of it. Oh my God, there's so many, so many, not so many that are so famous like Adam Sandler or Alec Baldwin, but there's so many that are working. Jamie Hector, he was a wonderful actor. Jamie Hector is he did The Wire,
Yeah.
and then he's on Bosch, this series called Bosch. I think they're filming in LA. I haven't seen the show yet, but I know he's on it. He's a terrific guy. He's doing really well.
So my
There's
podcast,
lots.
my podcast is called Hollywood Dreammaker Podcast because,
Yep.
I created it to inspire young artists to follow their dreams. If they have a dream to be an actor, I'm living proof. I'm a kid from Brooklyn that, came out to Hollywood with $200 in his pocket and a one-way ticket.
Right.
And I made a
Right.
career for myself. I've been blessed. I've been in Academy Award winning films, blockbuster films, cult classics, hit TV shows. I've been around the block, but if I can do it, anybody can do it. If you really go after it with a passion, there's no reason that, you can't become a working actor. It's a tough business. It's a roller coaster. It's a very, very tough business. But if it's in your heart, if it's your passion, it's your joy, then, if, there's people, maybe some naysayers that don't believe in you. Nobody believed in me. When I told people I want to come out to Hollywood and be an actor, they kind of laughed at me,
Right.
but, I achieved it, and, it's possible. So I've had a lot of guests, that have told their Hollywood story, and you have an amazing story because, I'd love to hear how, you wound up in Bridge on the River Kwai with, David Lean directing it. You had a lead role in that film. It was a big Hollywood film as a young actor, Can you tell me your Hollywood story?
I came to New York right out of college. My story is a little different from yours. I had a much more protected life than you did. Nobody shot at me or my friend. But anyway, I came to New York when I was very young. I was 21. And I had one connection, one contact, not a connection, a contact. It was a friend of my mother's, actually, who happened to be Tennessee Williams' agent. She got me an audition for Kazan. My very first audition in New York was for Elia Kazan. Imagine that. Yeah, really. My second audition was for a toothpaste commercial, so it wasn't always going straight uphill. But Kazan was great, and he was very nice to me. He was very kind. He was very. He said I should study acting, and I said, "Who should I study with?" And he said, "Lee Strasberg," and he mentioned the other great teachers, Stella Adler, Sandy Meisner, and I met all the teachers, and he did mention Lee Strasberg twice, and so I ended up with Lee Strasberg, and Lee was the one who he paid attention to me. I wasn't used to people paying attention to me, and he listened to me. You know, I didn't understand anything. I was brought up in a very conventional way, and I didn't know anything. And I think if I could think of one thing that I learned from Lee right away was that to be sensitive was a good thing. I was always taught, oh, you're too sensitive. But to be sensitive was a good thing. That all these great actors that I admired, like, say, Marlon Brando, that we all loved passionately, that Marlon was sensitive. He was tough, he was strong, he was handsome, he was all those things, but he was sensitive. And that's what made him great, or one of the things. And so I learned that from him. And I can tell you really simply, I studied with Lee for a year, and I studied hard. And I said, Lee, can I audition for the Actors Studio? And he said, you can, but you're not ready. So I studied with him another year. I went to class. I never missed class. I started to work on TV, live TV in New York, which was great then. It was wonderful. There were wonderful directors. There were all these people. They all became film directors. Sidney Lumet, Delbert Mann. I can't think of anybody's name now, but they were all really gifted people. And the shows were live shows. They had commercials just like today, but they were live. And so they were well written, good writers, good directors. Anyway, so I was working, but I still wasn't ready. And after the end of the second year, I asked him whether I was ready or not. And he said, yes. What scene are you going to do? I told him. I got in.
Wow.
And it's sort of something that doesn't exist now. When you audition for the Actors Studio, you do a preliminary audition, and you have 3 judges who are members of the Actors Studio who have done something, or they wouldn't be asked to be judges. And one of the judges was the director who directed me in my first movie. Another one was the director who directed me in my first Broadway play.
Huh.
And the third one was the one who a woman auditioned with me for Sam Spiegel for Bridge on the River Kwai. The 3 people that got me started were the 3 people. I mean, that's just very unusual. And I was very lucky. And anyway, I got into the Actors Studio. I passed my audition, and I got in the same day that Geraldine Page got in. Someone that doesn't mean anything to anybody today, but she was a great actress.
Great actress.
I was in a play with her, Strange Interlude. I played her son. I had a small part in it. Jane Fonda and I had the small parts in the play.
Wow.
And the rest of the cast was extraordinary. There were so many. They were so gifted. Anyway, so what happened after that? So I did. Oh yes, I did. I had a small part in a movie that was a sort of an Actors Studio production. All the actors in it were Actors Studio members. I had a very small part, and the producer was Sam Spiegel, who had produced many great movies, and they were looking for somebody famous to do the part that I played in the movie, but nobody famous wanted to do it because the part was small, and so I think he asked Montgomery Clift to play the part. I mean, really, Montgomery Clift wasn't going to do that. So anyway, so what I heard was that Sam Spiegel's girlfriend was on the set, and she said, "You ought to cast Geoffrey. He seems right for that part." And lo and behold, that's how I got the part. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the story that I remember. Somebody told me. So that was it. So I flew to Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, now known as Sri Lanka, but I flew there and was there for 6 months making the movie.
Wow. It took 6 months to shoot that.
It was actually longer than that, the whole thing, but I was there for 6 months of it.
You were wonderful in that film.
Oh, thanks. I was all right. Can I tell you a funny story about that?
Yes, please.
All right. So, you know, I didn't have much confidence as an actor. I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. But I know that I wanted to be good. That's what I did want to be good, even though I didn't have much confidence in myself. And so I wanted to talk to the director, who was this really famous. I'd seen all of his movies. He was this extraordinary film director. And this was his first big movie. By big, I mean big budget movie, big budget with big stars. He had made movies with mostly English actors before that. And there were small movies. They weren't huge, big blockbuster kind of movies. Anyway.
Are you talking about David Lean?
David Lean. And of course he was busy. But I did ask if I could have lunch with him, and I had lunch with him, and I had all these ideas that I wanted to talk about the character and this and that. And he would say to me, he's eager. And I would say, yes, yes, but he's eager. He said it about 5 times during lunch. And I said, okay, he's eager. And there was a line in the movie when William Holden, who at that time was the biggest star in the world, the biggest movie star in the world. He couldn't have been nicer, by the way. Very, very nice, very likable, very easygoing. Like a big boy, he would get very restless and, do dumb stuff like throw firecrackers in the dining room. But anyway, he was very, very nice. He was very nice to me. They were all very nice to me. They were very kind and there was no competition, no unpleasantness. Anyway, so there was a scene in which William Holden was asked whether I would be capable of going on the trek and doing a good job, the trek to go blow up the bridge. And he had a line that said, yeah, he'll be all right. He's kind of eager, but he'll be all right. That's why David Lean wanted me to be eager. When I was on the set when they filmed that scene, and the line came up, he said, will he be okay on the trek? And he said, he's kind of, he'll be all right. He cut the word eager because David Lean saw, even though that's what he wanted, that I wasn't good at being eager. I just because I was shy and I was self-conscious and I didn't have confidence. Eager was something that didn't come across, so he cut the word. It made me look good. That's what makes me look good. That's why you think I'm good in the movie. If that word eager had been in there, it would have not worked.
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. So here's, you talked about fear and anxiety, and a lot of actors deal with that, I mean,
yes.
It's teaching the craft of acting for as many years as you have, I'm sure you talk about relaxation and, what advice do you have for actors that deal with fear and anxiety? How, how do you cope with that? How do you deal with that?
Well, I've struggled with that. How do you teach that where people who like me have a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear? And, the best thing that people kind of have this expression, embrace your fear, but I don't know what that means, embrace your fear. It's like embracing a bear sometimes, it's just, you don't want to do it. I think the best thing that I can help people with is to accept that you're afraid, that you're going to be afraid, that it's okay to be afraid. There's no law that says you can't be afraid. And that maybe most people are afraid and you just deal with it. You don't try to hide it. You don't try to disguise it. You just let it be there. Permit it to be there. It's a form of sensitivity after all. Sensitivity doesn't just mean I can cry when I see a baby. Sensitivity means all kinds of sensitivity. You're sensitive to fear. You're sensitive to rage. You're sensitive to love, to passion, to sorrow. And so I think it's a part of you that I don't think should be denied if you have it. Some actors don't seem to have it. Yeah. Alec Baldwin doesn't seem to have it. He just doesn't. He seems like he's comfortable with himself more than most people. Yeah. Yes.
So, for my actors, I always tell them, there's excitement. And I like to turn that nervous into excitement. You're an actor, you're getting to act, you're excited. You got a little adrenaline pumping through your veins, embrace that. That's a good thing. Well, that's like batteries for an actor. Don't, like you said, don't try to block it out. Just go, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and use it and give it to the character and see where it can take you. I think it's truly something that, I believe we all have it, whether or not you say you don't. I mean, I know I want to feel that adrenaline pumping through my veins. Yeah. I mean, even before coming on with you right now, I had that adrenaline pumping through my veins. You're my acting teacher from when I was 15. So there's a little boy in me going, oh my gosh, and there's an excitement, but I got to go, okay, I'm excited, take a breath, ground myself, and go play. So it's getting out of your head, and I'm a true believer. I teach my actors how to meditate, how to breathe, how to ground themselves, because it's truly, a way to get out of your head and get into your heart and find your roots and breathe so you can play your instrument. You can't, I say if you're in your head, you're dead. You can't play your instrument if you're all jacked up with nerves. It's like a violinist trying to play, with their hand shaking. You can't do it. So you have to be able to relax your instrument And I found, you know, I mean, you know, when I was a young actor, we'd sit in chairs at Lee Strasberg and go, blah, you know, do
Yeah.
relaxation, you know, but you know, that doesn't work if you're in a casting office, you know.
Right. No.
So I've truly found that it's really training your breath and meditation and grounding
Yeah.
yourself and quieting the brain. So when you
Yeah.
train that, when you need it, it's a breath away because you've worked that muscle. And then you can take a breath and the mind goes, oh, I know what we're doing. We're quieting the brain. We're getting into our heart. We're getting grounded, and we're going to be able to play. So, you know,
Right.
I'm a big believer in meditation and being able to ground yourself in order to play. I'd like to get back for a second. I want to tell you a little story. So, you know, as a young actor at, you know, 15, 16 years old, when I was over at Lee Strasberg, you know, coming from where I came from, you know, having a teacher like you really truly inspired me to follow. You're the one guy that really, as a young actor, that believed in me. You know, I remember I'd be so excited to come to class because I knew I was doing something right. You had this habit of rubbing your hands together like this when I was when I was doing something good, and I was like, I could see it from my peripheral vision, and I was like, all right, I'm doing something good here. And you know, you had enough faith in me to talk to, I believe it was John Desmond, who was directing a play at the Actors Studio, where
All right.
I read for the role, and Irma Sandre, God rest her soul, was my mother in the play. And I was my first play was over at the Actors Studio, and here I am, a kid from Brooklyn, you know. But
Wow.
you believed in me enough to tell me about this role, and I went over there and I got that part, and that was my introduction, my first time being at the Actors Studio. And you know, I was a big fan of Brando, and you
My
know,
God, yes.
I mean, that was the place to
That
be,
was
the
the place
studio.
to be. It still is in its
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
So I want to thank you for that. And you inspired me, you know, as a young actor to, you know, go after it, you know, and really focus on
Yeah.
the craft.
Right.
So I
Right.
thank you because, you know, shortly right after, you know, when I turned, after studying with you, when I turned 18, you know, you know, $200 in my pocket that I won on a racetrack. My friend said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Hollywood. Now, to go backtrack a little bit, you remember that little girl we talked about in the beginning?
Yes.
Well, you know, I had run away from home, and I was living, you know, wherever. And then I moved in with her, you know, in New Jersey,
Missy.
Melissa,
Missy.
Brennan. Yeah.
Brennan.
So,
That's
you
right.
know, you know, that's a long story, but, you know, we were dating, and, you know,
Right.
you know, her parents loved me because I was like her bodyguard for auditioning. She was, you know, a little girl from New Jersey. Now, all of a sudden she had a bodyguard to take her to auditions in New
Right.
York City. So the parents loved me. So, you know, I remember she auditioned for a soap opera called Santa Barbara.
Right.
And I had taken to the audition, and, you know, we worked on it. We were rehearsing and whatever. Long story short, she books the part, and she's got to move to California to do this soap opera. Well, then the parents were like, well, we're done with him. We don't need him anymore. So, you know, they would try to cut me out of the picture.
Right.
And, you know, to make a very, very long story short, but, you know, I got into, I didn't have a driver's license, and I was driving her father's car, and I wrecked her father's car. I wrapped it around a tree. And, you know, I had handcuffs on me. I was,
Lord.
you know, New Jersey State Police and the whole thing, whatever. And it was a bullshit. It was her way to get out of the relationship. Pretty much, she didn't defend me. She didn't say anything to incriminate me, but you know, she was out of the picture. So long story short, you know, my Brooklyn mom had to go to a New Jersey police station to pick me up.
Lord.
But you know, they didn't know what they were dealing with, because they were dealing with a Brooklyn mom that was like, well, you were letting my son live in your house and he's a minor. So that she spun it on them. Long story short, I was released in her custody, you know, and here I am back in Brooklyn in my mother's, you know, apartment, watching television and watching Missy making out with some dude on a soap opera. So, you know, that was like, it hurt, you know. I was in love, you know, it was puppy love, but I was in love with her. So,
of course.
So
she was a lovable girl. Yeah.
So to once again, I think it was like 6 years ago. 6 years ago, my agent calls me up and he says, hey, there's a Days of Our Lives, a soap opera. They're there's a role on it and they want you for it. And I was like, yeah, nah, you know, I didn't want to do a soap opera. I was like, you know, I kind of passed on it. And they said, okay, they want you to put yourself on tape or whatever. So I put myself on tape just to put myself on tape. And then you know, they offered me the part, and it was like, you know, 15 episodes on the show, whatever. But here I am. Now I'm in my dressing room. Then over the intercom says, Billy Gallo and Melissa, I think her name's Reeves now, Reeves,
Oh,
to stage 5.
oh my goodness. How
No,
cool is that?
I walk out one door, she walks out of the other door, we run into each other in the hallway.
That is great. That's a great story.
And then we're on set filming, you know, this whole working with each other. It was crazy. Like how we come so full circle from 15 years old, from all the relationship and all the.
That's great. I love that. I love that.
It was a crazy story. So, you know, the craft, you know, you studied with Lee, you know, what advice, you know, would you give actors, you know, maybe books to read, or, you know, what to do to just really, you know, work on their craft?
Well, there's so many books, you know. Actually, my favorite book is a directing book, Notes on Directing. I recommend to everybody. You can get it on iBooks. So you can get it on your phone or your computer. And it's on directing, but it really is about it's about.
Is that Sidney Lumet?
It's no. Notes on Directing. It's by this English guy and an American guy. An English guy, he was a famous director in England, Frank Hauser, and he had an assistant who was American, Russell Reich. And this director just handed him the notes. He said, here's some notes. So the book is Notes on Directing. And it's literally just 2 or 3 notes on a page. And sometimes acting books go on and on and on about what you have to do and you have to do it. And I find them really boring. I have to admit something. I bought An Actor Prepares in 1950 when I was in college, and I still haven't finished it. You know, I have a new translation of it. It's sitting right there next to me, and I keep looking at it. And maybe someday I will finish it. But I find it gets too complicated, the explanations. You know? So this one particular book is very inexpensive, Notes on Directing, and while it is for directors, it really helps actors in every way. It's a wonderful book. The thing that I think. Let me explain something else too. So because I had fear and anxiety, I was good when I say good, I was okay, not great, but good enough when I was young, and playing young men's parts, young boys, like boys. But then I had this success, and I felt suddenly I had to be a man, and I didn't feel like a man. I don't know what that means to you. To me, it's kind of like Leo DiCaprio. I mean, he was really good when he was a boy. You know? He's still a boy in some ways. And sometimes when he plays men's parts, he's not as good as when he was just a boy, like in Gilbert Grape or in This Boy's Life or some other movie. The movie that he did was Spielberg that was so good in. The one with Christopher Walken. Catch Me If You Can. Yeah. And so my acting got worse because I suddenly was cutting out the very thing that gave me fuel. I think that's the word you used, or the batteries. My fear and anxiety was my fuel. But I thought it was wrong if I'm a man to have that. And that's because I had a screwed up childhood. It wasn't a dramatic criminal childhood like you grew up in Brooklyn. It was different kind of, a stifling kind of childhood where you just filled with guilt and shame about fate, about being the best or not being good. I think the thing that actors should do, that all artists do, is to look at their childhood. You can't fix it. You can't fix what was broken, you know? But you can look at it and say, I can do something with it. Not try to deny it, not try to pretend it was great, not try to pretend it was the worst in the world. It was what it was, your childhood. And that it's childhood memories that fuel you. So if I look out my window here as a tree here, and every time I see that tree, it reminds me of the tree in my front lawn in Cuba where I grew up. Every time I look at it. Yeah? I don't know why. It's nothing like that same tree, but it brings back so many memories. And it's out of those memories, that's my real fuel. So whether there's fear or whether there's rage or whether there's sorrow, What's important is that it comes from some real memory in my childhood that fuels me still to this day. Even I'm 87 years old, and it still fuels me. Yeah. What happens? You know, I've had a lot of death in my families and my friends. A lot of deaths, and it's terrible when it happens. You feel a loss. It's terrible. The big losses are what happened to you when you were a child. So somebody really smart said, "You look at the world once when you're a child. That's your first look at the world. You look at it, and then after that, it's all memory." And so I would encourage anybody who wants to act or do any art, write anything, it's memory. It's all there in the memory. Yeah? Plus whatever you pick up day to day, of course, the books you read, the experiences you have, but it's memory. And the great Italian actress Dusa said something, she said it in her own way, but it's memory. Yeah? Anyway,
That's
how
beautiful.
I feel.
That's beautiful. You know, and I hear you 100%, and I believe in that exactly. That's what I tell my actors. I say everything that's happened in your life, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, that's your gold in your actor toolbox. That's what you're going to mine, all that truth from your childhood, all that stuff. You know, your vulnerability is your strength.
Yeah. Yes,
You know,
yeah, exactly.
people, you know, you got to use that. That's your gift. That's your star power. Nobody has that. You know,
Billy, that's perfect. Your vulnerability is your strength,
it
but that's
is.
not what you're taught as a child. You're taught you're
No, it's
vulnerable.
not.
That
You're
means you're
totally,
weak.
you're
No.
weak. Yeah. But you know,
Yeah.
it's, you know, but listen,
Yeah.
and I hear, you know, the story, the childhood story. You know, I start with all my actors the same exact way. And I ask them, who are you? You know, who
Right.
are you? What are your
Right.
highs? What are your lows? Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about all that stuff, because we want to
Yeah.
start loading up your actor toolbox from all of that stuff, because one day you're going to have to
Right.
play a character, and you're going to have to get to an emotion. Well, how you get there? Well, you go into your actor toolbox. You remember, you know,
Yeah.
the time you sat on the stoop waiting for your daddy to pick you up, and he never showed up, you know, because he said he was going to pick you up to play baseball, you know, and you
Right.
get to that real sensation, that truth. And that's the paint that you paint the canvas of the scene with, is your
Right.
truth. See, I don't
Right.
teach acting. I teach truth. I don't want to see anybody act. That's acting's boring to me. I don't want to see you act. If you can be vulnerable, if you can be truthful, if you can take your soul and give it to a character and expose it through the character, then we
Yeah.
feel it. The audience feel it. The casting directors feel it. That's when
Right.
they remember you. They won't, you know, that's when how you become a working actor is you make them feel, you know,
Right.
but you only make them feel by being truthful and using your childhood,
Right.
you know?
That's right. That's
And, you know,
correct.
I say change your story, change your life. You know, for me, I had a whole story about, my parents were divorced. I come from a broken home. There was a lot of abuse. You know, if there was a checklist that everything could go bad to a child, I check all the boxes. You know, I had this whole story of abandonment, all this stuff that I carried around with me my whole life, and like
Right.
baggage, you know. And listen, as a young actor, yeah, I had access to my anger, my pain, or whatever. You know, it was right there. It was accessible. I just lived it, you know. There was a lot
Right.
of stuff, a lot of pain, you know, but you know, it's how you shift it and how you change the story. You know, I look at it now. I don't look at the story as a story of abandonment. I look at the story as she loved me so much that she didn't know she couldn't take care of me. So she put me in somebody's hands that could take care of me. So it's a different story of being abandoned or, you know, love. So
Right.
I've shifted everything that had happened in my life had to happen,
Mm-hmm.
because it's all my gold. It's made me the father I am today. It's made me the husband I am today. It's made me the teacher I am today. I had to go to, so everything that happened was a gift. It wasn't a
Yes.
bad thing. It was a gift. So, you know, I truly believe that, you know, we have to embrace our past. That is the gold.
Absolutely. How many kids do you have?
How many kids?
Um,
I have, oh, you mean,
children. I
I
mean,
thought you were my
children.
students, my kids.
No, children.
No, I have one son,
Oh,
13.
one son.
Yeah,
He's
beautiful.
13.
Yeah, it's a beautiful son. He's 13 years
That's
old.
nice.
How many
That's
kids do you
nice.
have?
Oh my God. 9 altogether.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
2 are deceased,
I'm
but
sorry to
so
hear
there's
that.
7 left. Yeah.
Wow.
But so there, yeah, 9, but 6 of them were adopted children. Anyway, it's a
Wow.
long story. It's a
Yeah.
long story. Yeah.
So, you know,
Another thing that I do tell my students is because, especially the boys like to act angry. You know, in life, anger is not fun. Huh? In acting, you think it's fun because you like throwing such, people like to throw chairs around and stuff. I remind them always that pain comes before anger.
mhm,
And they don't like that because you have to deal with the pain first. That's what causes you to be angry. Now, maybe you don't show your pain, but there is pain there, and I think that's the, I think that's the, I think that's the thing that's the thing that makes actors like Marlon Brando great is there's pain in every word he said.
That's the first thing I look for when I pick up a script. Where's the pain?
Yeah.
Where's the pain? Even if I have to cover it, I want to know
Yeah.
where it is, because we all have it.
That's absolutely. Yeah.
You know, Geoffrey, you know, looking at you right now, it's so great to see you. I mean, you look amazing. You're 87. You look amazing. You're still teaching the craft at 87 years old at Lee Strasberg in New York, in the probably same freaking theater that I used to come in to take class.
Probably.
You know, it's. Let's see. Was it 1999? I went back to New York to produce a movie,
right?
The Kings of Brooklyn. And when I was in New York, you know, making that film, it was quite a challenge. You know,
yes,
I was the producer on the film, the only producer, you know, on the film, and I was also a lead in the film, and I was also responsible for $2.5 million that you know, and you know, I was producing a film in character. That was the you know, I just found some mini DV tapes and I put them in, and they were like behind the scenes footage of me. You know, I had a friend of mine that was Fonda. I have some great footage of us. I'm converting it. I'll send it to you. It's awesome. You know, on the set when I was bleeding and you were the priest and the whole thing, you know, my skull cracked open.
Right.
There's some great footage of us. You know, but when I was, you know, I looked at the tape, I didn't even recognize myself because it wasn't me, it was the character. I had not, I produced the film in character, you know, because I'd have to go from producer to the set, you know.
Yes.
So, you know, my character smoked, I'm smoking, and, you know, just, I didn't even recognize myself, but it was such an honor, you know, when I was back in New York, you know, the movie, you know, the market, the Wall Street, you took a dump. I had to, my film, I needed another $500,000 to complete the film, finishing money. So a movie that I should have been in New York for a few months turned into 2 years. And, you know, I was in character most of the time there, you know, waiting to make that film. But when I came back for reshoots, you know, and I started reworking the script, I said, you know, I was thinking about a character. Maybe it was a reporter, and then I said, no, maybe it's a priest. And then when I started writing the priest, I said, I know who's going to play this part. And it was so great to have cast you in the film, and to be able to work and act with you side by side. You know,
that was fun.
That was pretty awesome.
That was fun. Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
And you've done that before. I mean, you've had, I think, Adam Sandler and you worked together
I had that little part in that movie,
Big Daddy,
a little tiny part. But
that was a great scene.
The truth is, I don't love acting anymore. I liked being an actor, but I stopped liking it, and I found out that I loved teaching. So I really got lucky. I found out late in life what I really wanted to do was teach. But I think if I hadn't had all that experience as an actor before, I think that's helped me. That's helped me be a teacher, to have the experience of acting. Just to be a teacher without having acted at all would be so great, because I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like.
I think that's what makes you a great teacher. Is you have the experience. You know what it's like to be vulnerable, to have to be on the spot and have to, you know, dig in deep and, you know, play with your emotions. You know, for me, I know it's been a gift for me. You know, I've been blessed. I got the dream. I achieved the, you know, I had the series, the movies, and, you know, when I was in New York City making that film and I had the big loft and the title and the stuff, I had never been so miserable in my life. And I said to myself, when I was sitting in my big ass loft, I was like, is this it? Is this it? You know? And it was so empty. You know, I had it. I achieved it. I was like, okay. And it wasn't until I found my true passion, which is teaching the craft, being the guide, because I've been there, done that. I got the t-shirt to prove it. I know I've carved my path through Hollywood. So now I get to guide my actors and teach them all the stuff that I've learned. You know, I wish there was somebody like me when I came to Hollywood when I was 18 that could have pointed me in the direction, said, oh, stay away from that photographer, go this way, stay to do this. You know, this is how you audition. This is what to do, what not to do. So I get to be that guy now. And
that's great.
It's great. You know, the craft, I love teaching the craft. For acting, you know, I've been there, done that. I'm not crazy to run out and do some acting right now. I act more now than ever in my life because I'm
yeah,
everybody's scene partner.
right,
I direct more
right,
now, talk about 10,000 hours. I've got, I've logged my
right,
hours, so,
right,
if I do get a chance, in front of the camera, I know it's going to be a different actor there because I've been really working on my craft, but I love
yeah,
teaching. It's been a blessing. If you would have told me years ago that I'd be teaching, I'd be like, "Oh, you're crazy." My ego would have gotten away. My ego was, was
right,
me. It was acting me, 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 me. But
right,
what I truly found is it's not about me. It's about being of service. It's how can I give? How can I make a difference in somebody else's life? And whenever every text, every email, everything I get an actor telling me, "Hey, I booked that job. I got that part. I got my SAG card. I got an agent. that turns me on. That
right,
fills me up because it's not about me. It's about how can I make a difference in
right,
somebody else's life.
right.
And I mean, think about what you've done. I mean, you inspired me, and now I get to inspire others and help other people achieve their dream. It's that rippling effect.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely,
so I'm
absolutely.
truly grateful to you. I think you're a wonderful teacher, and I'm so blessed that I got an opportunity, to study under you. What's amazing now. I'm just out of curiosity. With COVID and things have changed. I mean, I listen. I have a school, and I don't
Yeah,
have any students.
right.
Everything's online. And I've
Yeah,
pivoted, and I truly, I kind of like teaching online. I think it's been,
yeah,
for me, it's like I've done short films. It's like, it's like filming. I got a close up here, a close up here. You do scene works. You put it on
right.
view. It's a tight shot. So I've done a little short film on this thing.
Oh,
And it's been a lot of fun working on this. And I'm not tied to my brick and mortar anymore.
uh-huh.
I have students in different, states, different countries.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's great. So
yeah.
how has this transition been for you during this time, teaching online?
Well, at first, I was speaking of fear and anxiety. I was terrified. I thought maybe it'd be better just to die of the damn virus than to have to do it. But it took me quite a while to get used to it. And of course, I do have students. Tomorrow, I have a class. Two people are in Germany. One person is in Sweden. Another person is in India. A couple are in Brooklyn. So it's nice. That's a nice thing.
Awesome.
And I've gotten to like it actually. For one thing, you're seeing the actors in close up, which is
Hmm.
different than in
Yeah.
class. And so you're seeing them in close up. You're seeing things that you can't always see in a classroom, even if it's a small room. So it took me a while to get used to it, quite a while. But now I have a class tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, 8 to 12, because they have to accommodate somebody who's in India in the class. Uh, and I find it, I find I can work more intensely in a short amount of time with somebody. Uh, Mostly they don't want to do scenes, they want to do monologues, which is fine. And I can work really intensely with them. So I found it, I think there's some real advantages to it. Yeah. Of course, I miss the class. I miss the atmosphere of being in a class with a lot of people around. It's a nice atmosphere that you don't get. Other than that, I'm basically enjoying it. I get up really early in the morning so that I'm ready to teach by 8 o'clock. Uh, and I've found that I've liked it a lot. I'm teaching quite a few hours. It'll be some 18 or 19 hours.
Wow.
Starting in November, I've added a couple of workshops, a Shakespeare workshop and oh, that's one thing. That's funny. As you get older, it's harder to learn lines. A lot of actors quit acting because they can't remember their lines. Paul Newman, before he got the cancer, quit because he said, I can't remember lines anymore. So every day I practice learning Shakespeare. Every day I do it, every day.
Awesome.
So if I have a 50-line speech, it'll take me 50 weeks because I learn about a line a week, but still I'm making myself do it.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
and actually enjoying it a great deal. Yeah.
So Geoffrey, once again, I'm truly honored to have you on the show. I thank you from the bottom of my heart coming on here. I can't wait for this thing to be done. So,
Yes.
I'd love
Yes.
to come to New York City. I'd love to see you.
Yes.
If you ever come out to LA, come visit. Love
That's
to
probably
have
not
you.
gonna. That's probably not gonna happen. That I'm going to LA or any
Yeah.
place else. Not for a long time,
Yeah.
anyway. not
You're
for
a
a
New
long time.
Yorker. You're
Well,
die hard.
I'm at home here. This is a place that I'm at home. Yeah.
I miss
New
it.
York is perfect. Yeah. I live downtown Manhattan. I look out my window. I see the wonderful buildings. That's I love New York. I don't want to be any place else.
Yeah. What's not to
Yeah.
love?
Yeah, really.
Well, Jeffrey,
Well,
you stay
thanks for
safe.
having me,
Thank
Billy.
you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
been my honor, my pleasure.
Well,
And stay
great.
safe. Stay
Yes, I
healthy.
will. I will. I'll do the best I can. All right. Bless you.
Bless you.
All right.
God bless. Take care.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you very much.
Take care. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Please rate, review, share this with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't. Please take whatever you get from here, the golden nuggets, and apply them to your career. Go after your dreams with passion. Don't let anybody tell you it can't be done. I believe in you. Follow your dreams. I'll see you in Hollywood.